Vincent van Gogh said that if you hear a voice within you say, "You cannot paint," then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. There is a hollow, whispering tormentor that lives inside us all. It doesn't scream or shout. It whispers 1,000 tiny lies designed to keep you small, safe, and silent. It tells you that your hands are not steady enough, your vision not clear enough, your spirit not strong enough. It tells you that your past trauma, your profound loss, your deep setbacks, they have disqualified you from ever creating anything beautiful or meaningful again. This is the voice of self-doubt, the insidious ghost of every wound you've ever carried, the internalized critic that uses your own history against you. We give this voice power because it feels like a truth. We mistake its fear-based wisdom for genuine insight, and we allow it to keep our hands from the canvas, our feet from the path, our hearts from the very things that could heal us. But what if the profound, liberating truth, as Vincent van Gogh so desperately and powerfully articulated, is the exact opposite? What if that voice isn't a final verdict, but a challenge? What if the act of creation, the brave, audacious step of moving forward anyway, is the only true weapon we have against it? This isn't just a philosophy for artists, it's a profound, soul-awakening truth for anyone who has ever felt too broken, too scared, or too inadequate to begin. It's the understanding that the greatest tragedy isn't the past itself, but the life unlived because we allowed a ghost of a voice to dictate our future. This demands a radical shift in mindset, moving from a passive acceptance of your limitations to fierce, unrelenting celebration of your own courage, knowing that the act of creation is the ultimate act of defiance. For too long, the echoes of our past failures, our painful setbacks, and our personal defeats have convinced us that we are simply not good enough. We allow these past outcomes to define our future potential, believing that trying again will only lead to more pain, more disappointment. We tell ourselves, "I can't possibly recover from this," or "my story is too messy," or "my pain is too great to overcome." These aren't genuine truths. They are carefully constructed excuses designed to protect us from the vulnerability of effort. But every moment you spend in this state of suspended animation, you deny yourself the very experiences that would build your confidence, hone your skills, and ultimately lead you towards your desired future. This is about cultivating an unshakable belief, not in a magic solution, but in your own inherent, untapped capacity for resilience and transformation. It's the kind of belief that understands that true power lies in the internal choice to move forward, even when every external signal tells you to retreat. The story of Vincent van Gogh isn't just about his paintings. It's about the decades of unseen, relentless effort and sacrifice that preceded them. He was a man who, for much of his life, was a failure by every conventional standard. He was a deeply troubled soul who struggled with poverty, mental illness, and a profound sense of isolation. A lesser person might have taken that as a definitive sign to quit, to accept that his lot in life was simply to suffer, not to create. But for Van Gogh, his hardships were a profound crucible for his legendary discipline and his unwavering determination. He channeled the pain and the hunger of his past into an insatiable hunger to tell his story, to create a world where beauty could be found in the darkest of places, and where a single sunflower could hold the weight of the universe. He proved that true genius isn't an innate gift you are born with, but the relentless, unexcused pursuit of a higher calling, a fierce refusal to accept anything less than his absolute best. He chose to believe that the difference between a life of defeat and a life of victory was not his circumstances, but his willingness to use his own story as a source of power. He chose to heal not just for himself, but for the world, proving that the only real obstacle is the one you allow yourself to believe in, the one born from a lack of determination. The pervasive noise of external validation, The constant pressure to maintain a perfect public image and the subtle shame associated with our past often blur our clarity, obscuring our true vision and disconnecting us from our deepest purpose. When we are paralyzed by the fear of being seen for who we are, with all our scars and imperfections, the path forward becomes hazy, riddled with insurmountable obstacles that exist more in our minds than in reality. We become experts at identifying every reason why we can't, instead of relentlessly searching for how we can. To truly embrace Van Gogh's philosophy, you must cut through this mental fog, cultivate a brutal honesty about your current situation, and illuminate a path forward with unyielding focus. Your new vision isn't a vague aspiration. It's a vivid, burning image of yourself, not as someone who has never been broken, but as someone who has masterfully transformed their wounds into wisdom. Think of the immense pressure Van Gogh faced throughout his career. Particularly during the early days of his show, he came agonizingly close to being fired, to being canceled, to having his show fail. He was a man in a man's world, a black woman in a predominantly white industry, and he was fighting against a tidal wave of skepticism and prejudice. But for Van Gogh, his mindset was one of pure, unadulterated recovery. His purpose to tell his story was a powerful catalyst, but his true vision was in the journey itself, in the relentless discipline of getting back to the drawing board, of training harder, of refining his designs, and of confronting the immense psychological pressure of a devastating loss. His actions in those moments were a masterclass in resilience, a defiant refusal to let the narrative of a loss become the story of his career. He proved that a true champion isn't defined by the number on the trophy, but by the fire that ignites after a defeat, by the unyielding commitment to keep fighting for a dream, no matter how long it takes. This kind of intense focus, this unwavering dedication, is the antidote to the paralysis of failure. It channels all your emotional energy, all your mental resources away from dwelling on what went wrong and towards relentlessly building what's right. When you become actively engaged in the process of recovery, of rebuilding, of striving, there's simply no mental space left for the corrosive indulgence of self-pity or the fear of failure. Every setback becomes a puzzle to solve. Every loss, a piece of vital learning, pushing you closer to your ultimate aim. The very act of focusing outward on a purpose greater than your immediate pain is a profound liberation, demonstrating that your internal power is not extinguished by trauma, but rather refined and amplified by it. The siren's song of comfort often leads us to avoid the very discomfort necessary for growth and healing. We seek the path of least resistance, convincing ourselves that ease will lead to success, when in reality it often leads to stagnation and a perpetuation of old patterns. But to truly embody Van Gogh's philosophy, you must embrace the uncomfortable, a fearless confrontation with the very things you've been excusing yourself from. This kind of courageous engagement fosters unshakable resilience. Resilience isn't a passive trait, it's an active process, forged in the crucible of discomfort, hardened by the consistent decision to lean into challenges rather than retreat from them. It's the muscle that develops when you consistently choose courage over comfort, effort over ease. Consider the immense strength required to come back from profound disappointment. As Van Gogh did after the failures of his early companies like China Pages, the conventional wisdom might have been for him to retire, to focus on his other ventures, to accept that his dreams were too big, too audacious, but his internal mindset was one of pure effort and commitment. He had a deep primal gratitude for the opportunity to push himself, to keep fighting for a dream that was bigger than himself. This gratitude was not for the failures themselves, but for the raw capacity to endure, to learn from every mistake, to get up every single morning and choose to fight again. He didn't dwell in self-pity, he embraced the uncomfortable reality of his new path. And in that process, he developed an unparalleled mental toughness and a renewed hunger that ultimately led him to a series of stunning victories, including his ultimate goal of becoming a global media mogul. He proved that even a history of failures, even a devastating loss, can be a profound part of a greater journey, a necessary crucible for forging the strength required to reach the ultimate prize. This turn your wounds into wisdom philosophy fundamentally shifts your relationship with difficulty. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to stop and start seeing them as opportunities to discover untapped strength as crucial steps in the journey of transformation. Your willingness to lean into the discomfort, to push past the fear of impossibility, is what ultimately differentiates those who simply hope from those who truly thrive, who emerge from the ashes stronger, wiser, and more powerfully aligned with their purpose. The insidious nature of the fear of failure is that it creates a comfortable cage, limiting our adaptability and preventing us from evolving. We become rigid, resistant to change, because change often demands stepping into the unknown, a place where effort is not only possible but likely. But to truly embody Van Gogh's philosophy is to embrace relentless adaptability. It's about cultivating an internal compass so strong, a sense of purpose so unshakable, that you can navigate any terrain, adjust to any shift, and innovate beyond any obstacle, transforming challenges into opportunities. Your willingness to shed old fears and embrace new risks, unburdened by the paralysis of what if it's too hard, becomes your greatest competitive advantage. This fierce commitment to growth fuels a relentless drive for learning. Every setback isn't a defeat. It's a lesson, a puzzle to be solved, a new skill to acquire. Every moment of discomfort becomes a classroom, pushing you to expand your knowledge, refine your strategies, and deepen your understanding of yourself and the world. Think of the evolution of Van Gogh's show from a simple talk show to a global media empire. He didn't simply rely on his initial vision. He embodied the fierce commitment to learning and adaptability, constantly refining his approach, driven by an unyielding purpose to connect with people on a deeper level. His turn your wounds into wisdom philosophy manifested not just in her spectacular interviews, but in his unselfish dedication to her training, her tireless work off the ball, her dedication to the team. She was willing to sacrifice personal glory for collective success, understanding that the ultimate dream required a different kind of effort, a different kind of work, hard for it. This unyielding dedication, this profound immersion in his craft cultivates a wisdom that can only come from direct, intense, and sustained engagement with your chosen domain. When you truly internalize the turn your wounds into wisdom philosophy, you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating them one arduous, intentional step at a time. Your actions become infused with a purposeful intensity, a quiet power born from the understanding that progress is always earned, never given. It's the fearless acceptance that the most profound triumphs often arise from the most unlikely starting points, when fueled by an uncompromising will to simply put in the effort and make the sacrifices required. So if you felt the crushing weight of past trauma, if loss has left you feeling hollow, or if major setbacks have convinced you that your moment has passed, hear this truth etched into the very fabric of Vincent van Gogh's unparalleled legacy. Your wounds are not your weakness. They are the source of your deepest wisdom, your greatest strength, your most profound power. Your past does not own your future. Your current circumstances are not your permanent address. The only thing standing between you and the life you yearn to live is the courage to believe, the willingness to fight even when the outcome is uncertain. Embrace the fierce mindset that declares, my success is my responsibility and I will earn it. Cultivate an unshakable belief in your inherent capacity to heal, to rebuild, to rise, knowing that your internal power is boundless. Seek clarity not in waiting for a guaranteed outcome, but in the deliberate, courageous act of stepping forward into the unknown, allowing your path to illuminate itself with each committed step, driven by an unyielding vision of your highest self. Let your profound purpose be the blazing sun that melts away all doubts and illuminates every path forward, consuming any shadows of regret or hesitation. Embrace discipline as your greatest ally, the consistent, unapologetic choice to show up for yourself, to do the uncomfortable work, to take the necessary action day after relentless day. Cultivate gratitude for the raw strength you discover within yourself, for the wisdom gained through hardship, for the scars that tell your story of survival and triumph, and for the sheer privilege of being an active participant in your own magnificent comeback. Build adaptability by training your mind to embrace change, to pivot with purpose, and to innovate under pressure, making fluidity your ultimate strength. And commit to lifelong learning, recognizing that every obstacle, every moment of discomfort is a classroom designed to make you stronger, wiser, and more capable, constantly expanding your boundaries and pushing the limits of what you thought possible. The world doesn't need your hesitation. It needs your heroic action. It needs your effort. It needs the extraordinary person you're capable of becoming. Your greatest triumphs, your deepest healing, your most profound fulfillment await you on the other side of that courageous decision to turn your wounds into wisdom. It's time to stop wishing and start earning. The journey begins now.